Play is the language of children. Kids who don't know how to play, it's like they're not speaking the same language as their peers. So it's really important to support them in that, because that's still at the core of kids is that natural interaction of how to, be a friend.
Welcome to the Empower LEP Collaborative Podcast, a podcast to empower, inspire, and collaborate with aspiring and practicing licensed educational psychologists and like-minded professionals. We're your hosts, Jana Parker and Bethany Zoller, bringing professionals together to talk business, private practice, and find inspiration from our community.
Well, welcome back, guys, to another episode of the Empower LEP Collaborative Podcast. We're your hosts, Bethany Zoller
and Jana Parker.
And today we have a very esteemed guest with us, Mr. or Doctor. Are you you don't get to say doctor? You got cool letters.
No, I play one on TV though. I'm not actually a doctor. No, I have the specialist degree. It's the West Coast version of the MED, right?
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, anyways, Chris Jones, I just refer to you as the LEP King. Is that I think that's appropriate.
That works. I don't have my crown today, but I'll make sure I wear it another time.
Next episode.
There you go.
I expect it. Well, we are so excited to have you on and to kind of get an idea of your journey in the LEP world. I learned about being an LEP by going to one of your trainings a while back. So tell us, where are you working these days? What's all the hats that you wear?
Oh, I wear some hats for sure. I am a full-time school psychologist. I work for iLEAD charter schools, which we have both brick and mortar and online programs. I'm a brick and mortar guy myself, but I'm the lead psychologist for that organization, and I have a fantastic team. There are 8 of us that provide services for kids all throughout Southern California. I believe that our charter's in about 5 different counties. I also have a private practice called Dynamic Interventions that I've had for the last 16 years. We hold the distinction of being the very first incorporation of LEPs in the history of California, according to my business attorney, so I believe him. In addition to that, I am the president-elect of CASP, the California Association of School Psychologists. I will be taking over as president on July 1st, and I'm also the president of the Board of Behavioral Sciences, and we do policy and regulation for 4 different license types in California. So I'm a little busy sometimes.
Well, I think that about wraps up all the time we have today. Oh, just going over the bio. Okay, so you're back in schools full time plus all these extra things on the side. So when have you always done both, or were you private practice primarily, and then tell me the story? It's
a good story. I was a school psychologist for 9 years. And then I left public education in 2006, and I started my practice. And I did the practice full time for about 15 years.
Wow.
So yeah, about 15 years. And then in 2020, I went back to schools. Unfortunately, 60% of my business was direct school contracts, in addition to regional center groups that we did in the office. And then pandemic hit, and that took a big chunk of my business away. So I decided to go back to the schools as a way of kind of offsetting that hit. And I really only plan to do it for about a year or so, but I really enjoy the work that I do. So I now do both.
That's awesome. It's, I think that's my favorite part about being an LEP, though, is you really get to just kind of find your passion and niche. And, I just feel like it gives us more opportunities to find that fit for us. So very cool.
And I was just going to say, we're talking to a lot of people who have individual practices, and then some people who have practices that do a lot of contract work. And I think that you're going to talk about it, but I'm just kind of giving you a lead in, but is unique what dynamic interventions did. So I'm really interested in hearing about that. So sorry, I probably just took the question right out of Bethany's mouth.
Just go for it. It's all good. It's all good.
So dynamic interventions was born from a temper tantrum.
Wait, from a what? You cut out.
Temper tantrum. A temper tantrum. So I was the lead psychologist in the William S. Hart Union High School District back in the early 2000s. We had it's a grade 6 through 12 high school district. We had 6 comprehensive buildings. We had a continuation high school. And I was getting to the point where I felt that special education was very reactive. And I didn't feel like I was doing the work that I had trained to do for all those years. And it was becoming more about how are you going to make your reports legally defensible because everything's going to go to due process? How are you going to hold more meetings and do more paperwork? And, everything was becoming overwhelming. We didn't have enough help. I worked really hard with both our administration. I worked for a wonderful, wonderful special education director. He's passed on now. Marty Lieberman was my mentor. His motto was do what's right for kids. So he was fantastic. But due to bureaucracy and budgets and all of those things, we couldn't get more help. I worked really hard to try to change the system from the inside to make special education, at least within the Hart District, to be more of a proactive system. When I kept hitting my head up against the wall, one night I was at home with my wife and I said, we can do this different and better. Excuse me. I said, there's a better way to do this. And that was where the initial idea of dynamic interventions came from. It had a few iterations along the way. We planned it for about a year. We initially had myself, my wife, and 2 other partners. And we decided on the business model. We did as much research as we could about how to run a practice and have a business. Nobody knew what LEPs were at that point. So it was really a labor of love. And about a year later, 2 of the 4 of us jumped off full time into the practice, and our other 2 partners, my wife and another partner, they were kind of part-time with it as we built the practice up. But the intent was to provide really high quality assessment, counseling, consultation services to the community of Santa Clarita where we live and surrounding communities by doing all the things that you don't get to do in your day-to-day as a school psychologist. So really, we were all about doing what's right for kids and families, providing supports so that parents weren't coming to you when the pipe had already broken, but when there was just a small leak that we could fix. And we did a lot of that for a long time. It was really great. When we first opened, like any business owner, I felt like I had a good enough reputation in Santa Clarita. I knew everybody everywhere, that I could hang my shingle and it would just all work out great. We all know that that's not how it goes. So I learned that the hard way. So we ended up becoming regional center vendors as a stopgap measure to keep the lights on. I started out with one. We did social skills groups for kids on the spectrum. I have a pretty strong background in autism. I tell people that in graduate school, I saw Asperger's come and go. So in graduate school, we had to do a paper on a disability. This new thing called Asperger's syndrome was around in the mid-90s. And so I did a paper on it. And then in my internship, we had this kid that was coming back from non-public school that had this thing called Asperger's syndrome that nobody knew about. And I said, I wrote a paper on that. I know what that is. And they said, here you go, Chris, there's your project. So that's kind of where it started. And then we built our social skills program. We wrote all the curriculum. Everything was research-based. Started out with one group with 4 kids. And then within, I'm going to say 3 to 4 years, we had 15 plus groups that were running. I had over 125 clients who would walk through my door every week. Ages, all school age, 5 or 6 years old up to adults. I had 4 or 5 therapists that were running groups for me, and it was great. It was never an intention to make that a main part of the business, but we really liked it. We were good at it, and there was the demand. So if you build it, they will come. So that was a big piece of it. And then assessments that led into school contracts and individual clients that walk through the door, consultation. We tried our hand at advocacy in the beginning, then really realized we didn't really like it that much. If we presented ourselves as consultants, we got a lot better feedback and support from IEP teams if we went in with our clients and presented ourselves that way versus saying we're an advocate. It's very interesting to see the difference a word can make with people and how they feel about things. So
that is so interesting, just that language. So you would go into IEPs, you would do the work that you would do as a quote unquote advocate, but you just call yourself a consultant. And it I like that. It really became more collaborative, and it worked better. We had advocacy as one of our marketing things on our website and on our business cards, and we took it off after about a year or two when we realized that if we walked in with the word advocate, then everyone was defensive. We walk in as consultants and collaborators, and it changed. Same message, right? Just you put a different bow on it and you get a lot different results.
So what is Dynamic Interventions up to now?
Dynamic Interventions is much smaller now. Part of that's by choice. 2 of our partners have left. One partner left a while ago. Our other partner left maybe 10 years ago. And it's myself and my wife. We run it. I do the majority of the work. I've got clients that I see after school hours. I'll do an IE here and there. I really just kind of run it the way that I want to run it. I see the clients I'd like to see. So as I get older, working the nights becomes a little bit more difficult. So, it's on a smaller scale, but we still are a very strong presence in the community.
Yeah, I can tell. That's like one of the hard parts about getting people to come and work is that a lot of people are still working day jobs, and getting people to come and work in the after school hours is difficult. At least for testing, I've found that a lot of people will come during the day, sometimes not, but especially for other kinds of services, you can't unless you have, unless you're like sending people into private schools to do work. But yeah.
And it's hard to get people to come work for you. Most therapist-y type people, they want to do telehealth, which is great. But when you work with kids, they tend to perform better when they are in person. So I had a hard time pulling people back after pandemic to come in and work for me.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So how did you hung your shingle, and how did you get your clients? Like what would your advice be for people that are starting out? How do you get your name out there?
At the end of the day, when you're working with children, word of mouth is king. So parents who talk to other parents about the quality of service that you provide and how good you are with their kids and the difference that you can make. The website is necessary. Is that if you don't have a website, you don't exist. So that's the first thing that parents go. Now, when I opened, websites we had websites, they just weren't as interactive as they are today. So websites, word of mouth connections through educational agencies, schools, SELPAs, things like that, where we would have lunch with, people from the community, Chamber of Commerce, all of those little things to kind of get your name out there and get in front of people. Any opportunity to get in front of people. Psychology is still such a personal business that they want to know who you are. They want to shake your hand and have a conversation with you. So it was really about the networking with people that got us through the beginning stages of opening the business. But truly, when we started doing the regional center groups, I had no idea how much that would take off. But you're seeing kids in volume, and they talk, and then they go back to their caseworkers and they say, this place is fantastic. They're doing things that we haven't seen done before in groups, and our kids are making progress. So then before you know it, I'm getting referral after referral. And it was a great day, the day I had to hire an office manager because there was too much for me to do on my own. It was really the difference that when I knew that the business was truly growing is when I had to have somebody answer the phones for me.
Yeah. Can I ask a question about regional center vendor?
Sure.
Like how, what's the process that you go through to become a vendor? And also, like, what are the kinds of services that, if you may not know all the answers, but like, what could an LEP do for the regional center? You know, like what was within our scope, I guess, because I've heard some varying opinions.
Well, and there's the big question, right? I know that this is kind of what got me here in the first place, was responding to that question. So the process for becoming a vendor, there's an application packet. I'm sure it's still on their website. That's where we got it from. We had to create a program design specifically for what it is that we were doing. So we created we made it very school-based. School-based is time sensitive. So it was 10 weeks of group. They had different themes that we were working on, if whatever type of top perspective taking, friendship making, coping skills, all of those different pieces. And we put the program together with some sample lessons and then sent it in for review. They said, this looks great. And then they gave us the vendorization to begin the groups. So when we did the program design, everything wrapped back around to school. So that was what we knew that we needed to do to maintain our scope of practice. So everything had a school link to it. How do you work on, in the classroom, on the playground? In fact, I designed a full summer program. Not full summer. It's a week-long summer program that's called, now this is already trademarked, so don't go stealing it on me, okay? It was a very creative name, Social Skills on the Playground. I know that is like cutting edge marketing. So I designed the program where we took kids, regional center consumers. We took private clients too. They didn't have to just be a regional center consumer in order to access our groups. And we took them out to the playground at school for a week. And we taught them both the game rules and the social rules for some of the more common playground games. And then I wrote a handbook with all of the game rules, both game and social rules, that they took home at the end of the week so that they could practice with their parents or siblings before they started school. We ran the camp. It was very much, my background is day camps. That's how I started with kids. I was 14 years old, started as a day camp counselor. I worked in day camps all through being a director, right? Until I was 28. So for 14 or 15 summers, I did day camps. So that was kind of the impetus for what it would look like. The feedback that we got from parents is that their kids felt more confident when they walked into school day one. They maybe they did or maybe they didn't play handball, but they sure knew that they could if they wanted to. And that was what we were hoping to accomplish. Not that we're going to force you to go sit and go play handball, but if you want to get in line, you know how to do it and you know how to play the game, and that way you can choose to fit in. And it was a huge success. We ran it for many summers, and then COVID hit and we stopped it. So
I just do you sell any of these curriculums? Like, are we able to?
You want to buy my curriculum? Sure. Well, we can talk after the show, Bethany.
I'm just like, well, like you have the 10-week program all set up for KRC. You've got summer program. I'm like, where do we buy it?
Yeah. I got a website you can sell it on.
There you go. That was always the biggest complaint that one of my other partners made about me. She says, you come up with brilliant ideas, but you need to put it in a book and sell it. I'm like, I don't write stuff down very much, so I needed to be better at that. We do have all of our curriculum. I've got bookcases full of lesson plans that we've created over the years for 900 different types of social skills. Oh, anything from basic friendship making to transition and like how to get a job, dating, all of the things.
Okay, you have like a library card or a subscription service that you can like check these things out, because
absolutely,
that sounds amazing.
Yeah, Chris, I'm not even kidding. I'm going to work with you to put these up on my site so that people can access them. Okay, so we'll be in touch. I'll have my people call your people.
Excellent. All right.
Well, I mean, I am just thinking back to when I worked in schools and how we had a group that was run by our speech pathologist and our school counselor. And together they had a once a week lunchtime group with neurodivergent and, non-neurodivergent peers. And they would learn how to play both board games and outside school games. And then it made me think. I was just at a private school a few weeks ago watching a little guy on the playground, and he literally took first he walked around by himself, then he took every ball from the ball rack and tossed them down the stairs, whether they hit people or not. Like, I think he might have actually been trying to hit people, but I mean, his game was just tossing the balls down the stairs. And then he took one of the balls and he just tossed it into a group of girls, so it was like, he was trying, I could tell he wanted to play, and he just had no idea how to engage appropriately. And I could see him benefiting so much from a group like that. That's so great. And why no one at the school is recognizing that maybe that would be a good thing to do, is like teach the kid how to play a game. Yeah.
Play is the language of children. I'm a child development major, so I come from every aspect I come from. It has that, has that ring to it. So play is the language of children. Kids who don't know how to play, it's like they're not speaking the same language as their peers. So it's really important to support them in that, because that's still at the core of kids is that natural interaction of how to, be a friend and have a connection with another person, and how much joy that brings to them, and how it helps with both, physical and mental growth.
Well, I'll be over to check out some materials. I'm excited. I think that summer program would be amazing. I get asked to do some stuff all the time, and I never have a clue what to do, but that's really, really cool. Very cool.
Fun.
All right. So let's switch gears and talk about LEP and being the LEP king. How long have you been with the board doing in some role? You've been on the BBS in different capacities, haven't you?
CASP. I've been on I was the LEP specialist for CASP. I have been that for 7 or 8 years. It fell in my lap. It was not, I wasn't seeking it out. At the time, I had an LEP that was working for me, and the incoming CASP president, Troy Xavier Leonard. If you've never met Troy, he is a fantastic human. He knew he worked in LA Unified with Jason Thomas was the name of the LEP. Jason worked for me. He said, "Hey, Chris, Troy wants me to be the LEP specialist. I don't know that I can do it. Will you co-chair that with me?" I said, "What does an LEP specialist do?" And he's like, "I don't really know. Troy hasn't kind of told me, but I don't know that I'll be able to do this." He had young kids and things like that. So Troy calls me and gives me the rundown of what the LEP specialist does. He goes, "Oh, it's easy, because you get a couple of emails a month, maybe a phone call, you answer some questions about how to be in private practice. It won't take any time at all." Oh, that sounds okay. Next thing I know, Jason goes, yeah, I'm not really going to be able to do this. So can you handle this, Jones? Sure, it should be easy. So I go to my first cast board meeting. Barbara D and Cal was the past president as Troy took over. She looks at me and she says, Chris, we need a new code of ethics. And you need to start a committee and create that for us for LEPs. And I looked at her and I said, Barbara, I don't know how to do, how do you create a committee? What does that even entail? So of course, I was voluntold to do some things. And that was my first experience on the board, was create a committee and rewrite the code of ethics. Okay. So we did it, and we had it done in a couple of months. And and from there, the rest is history. I've been on the board ever since. I took over as secretary treasurer 2.5 years ago, when our current secretary treasurer stepped down. And so I'd been on the board long enough where they were looking to bring me more into leadership, mostly because of the bill that we got passed, and talk about that too if you'd like. And so I said, I don't know if I'll have the time to do all that, but let's see how it works. And so I started there, and then here I am, president in a couple of months.
Get another crown.
Yeah, filling the big shoes of Melissa Wood. It's going to be a hard act to follow.
Melissa's cool. I went to high school with Melissa.
I heard that. She told me that
we were in choir together.
Aw.
Small world.
Getting into these whole, like cast board, it is no joke, the rules and things that like come along with that. Like I was a president of an affiliate last year for 1 year, and I was never president-elect. I just was like, oh yeah, Jana, kind of same thing. Like, it's going to be easy. It's just, you just show up at one meeting a month, and and it was the year that I had left schools and was just doing private practice only. And I was like, oh yeah, I'll have time to do that. No, I felt so, I don't want to, what word I was going to say, like dumb, but I don't want to use that word. But like, I was just very, I didn't know how to do it. And so I felt stupid. I felt stupid. Like every time I'd forget, just even like, all in favor, like all the things. And I'd be like, oh God, you guys, I'm sorry. And I just felt like I was letting everybody down all year. Basically, that's how I felt. So I couldn't even be past president. I'm like, you guys, this is too much. I just can't do it. Because I think as school psychologists, like we always want to be great at everything that we do. And if we're not, then we don't feel good about it. So I didn't feel good about it. And I just want to say, oh my God, that you had to build a code of ethics. I understand what you're saying when you're like, I don't know how to do that. And then you were tasked with this huge endeavor with all this language that is just not even, sometimes I have a very hard time with reading comprehension when I'm reading something like that, like I applaud you, basically, is what I'm saying.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I surrounded myself with people that were much smarter than me, and we were able to get that done. But it was definitely an eye opener. Like you're right. It was no joke. It was no, and there was no, a couple of emails a month. It was almost a part-time job. But I really enjoyed it. It was again, something that was never on my radar. I've been in leadership positions forever, but I never really thought about being on the CASP board. The LEP specialist isn't a voting member. So I would go to the board meetings, and there wasn't a whole lot of pressure for me to, have the knowledge of all the things that needed to be voted on. I could just kind of sit and watch. So I did get a lot of opportunity to observe how a board was run. I had the absolute pleasure of working under some great presidents. So that's, I think, for me, really the best part about being on the CASP board is I am constantly surrounded by brilliant people, and it just elevates your game. I mean, you can't walk in there and fake it till you make it. You need to know your stuff. So it makes me be a better psychologist, and looking at the systematic change that we are trying to accomplish as an organization has been fantastic. The things that we've accomplished since I've been on the board is wonderful. Really, really great for the profession. Really, there's been a resurgence in CASP as far as membership goes, and the advocacy. Most people don't know this, but CASP is the only state organization in the union that has an executive director and lobbyists. So no other state organization has it. Only NASP does. So, our members are not always aware of the work that we do for them. An example would be the law that we got passed back in 2020, which was AB 1651, which now allows LEPs to be clinical supervisors for the other three associates when they're providing ERMS or DIS or ERMS services in schools. So that was a big win, but that's an example of how our lobbyists support systematic change by being able to get laws passed.
Mm-hmm. There's been a lot of chatter on social media about a specific issue that a lot of LEPs are facing, and that is ridiculous requirements from school districts for sexual molestation coverage for their insurance policies in order to be an IEE provider. And I feel like it's becoming, in my area, I haven't had to deal with this yet, but it definitely is out there, and I keep getting more and more comments that I'm seeing. Is there something that we can do to get the word out to CASP or to have representation for LEPs specifically? Because it just seems like the insurance requirements are making it cost prohibitive to be an LEP, because you can't afford to insure yourself in order to be doing the work that you would do as an LEP. So I don't know, who do we talk to when we have things like that?
Well, you bring it to a board meeting and you say, hey, you would talk to your affiliate, and your affiliate would bring it to the board, and the board would determine, what committee to go, that should go to investigate. So that would be the LEP committee. So I'll take the note, and we'll move it forward. It is an issue, and I've heard it a lot too. When I first started doing this, you had to have liability insurance and like business insurance, and that was it. The sexual molestation insurance is relatively new, within the last 5 or 6 years. A lot of companies don't carry it, and if they do, it's expensive. So my insurance company does carry it, and it's not terrible. But I'm trying to remember if I renewed it this year. But yeah, and a lot of districts are requiring it. The insurance requirements are becoming daunting and difficult to maintain. To your point, it's cost prohibitive for us to jump through those hoops for doing IEEs. But it's a question that we can answer. One of the things that the LEP committee is going to start looking at is the ability for us to get on insurance boards. So maybe we can answer both questions. I don't know how much we're going to be able to do with requiring school districts to change their policies to provide access for LEPs to do IEEs for them, or other contract work, but we can ask the question. Yeah,
I mean, I guess the response, if there isn't anything to be done, is we just raise our rates. But it just seems, I don't know. It just seems like they're getting a little ridiculous. It makes me wonder if these expectations are across the board. If they're doing the exact same thing for the neuropsych that they wanted to hire, but somebody told them they had to do an LEP, or something.
My understanding is that those are board policies, school board policies, and they are blanketed across all contractors.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, because I would think the school district would rather have an LEP than a neuropsych, or
I've just had conversations with attorneys, and they seem to think that they're going to get something better out of a neuropsych assessment. And so I've had conversations with them about like, no.
Well, attorneys might think
know
that
the ed code. It's going to be an LEP. Yeah.
Right. I mean, an attorney might think that, but the attorney is not our client. It's the child, right? And like, it's the school, like the school would rather have somebody who knows the scope of practice as a school psychologist because they want.
I just get clients from attorneys. I mean, they're calling me and to see if I'm a good enough at my job in order to represent their client. So you got to work with. I get attorneys calling me. So
got it.
They're happier if you have a doctorate than if you don't. If you're most LEPs, school psychs are master's level or specialist level. Very few of us are doctoral level, but that's the line in the sand, I think, for a lot of attorneys.
Yeah, and it's kind of silly because a doctoral level person may or may not have ever worked in a school, especially in California. You know, there are so few of us, right? So you might get a really good clinical psychologist or neuropsychologist report, but whether or not that's like that's not what a school district evaluation is, you know?
Right.
Yeah. I was going to ask a question. Oh, you know, I had an insurance company who was like, well, we don't have that. We don't have sexual abuse and molestation because it's a crime. Like, why would we insure that? And I'm like, well, that totally makes sense, right? And obviously, if you have malpractice insurance, it like that kind of like, you're not going to do that. You're not going to commit a crime. And if you do, why would someone insure that?
That's the exact same argument that I've heard from insurance companies. Why would you insure a crime?
Right. I'm going to ask a kind of ignorant question. I've had, you know, when a school district, we contract with school districts all the time, and I always provide them my general liability insurance. But I had a friend who was only supplying their malpractice insurance, and both of us were like getting IEEs all the time. And then all of a sudden, my friend was like, oh, they want me to show my general liability, and I don't even have that. And I was like, well, you should probably get that. Number one, because you have a place that you're working. But number two, just, you know, like you should have that. But then I was like, am I giving the wrong insurance? I don't know. Do you know, Chris Jones? Like, what do you usually give school districts?
I give them my liability insurance, professional liability insurance, and the business insurance.
So you give them both?
Yeah. They typically ask for both.
I only ask for one, and I just give them general liability, and
you give them what they ask. That's it. Don't give them more. Yeah, I only give and some of the times I didn't have, like they wanted workman's comp insurance. I'm like, okay, but I'm the owner and the one that's doing the work, and I can't claim workman's comp as the owner of the business. So I don't know why you want that. But I had workman's comp because I had employees. So, you know, I would do that. So whatever they ask for, give it to them. If they don't ask for it, then don't give it to them.
I've had many districts not ask for anything, but usually they just want professional liability.
See, I never give them professional liability. I only give them general. No one even knows.
They don't even care because you gave it to them and they said it was fine. So
that must be it. They just don't even know. They're like, okay, this is the right numbers. Fine.
It's funny.
That is.
We have a little group that gets together once a month, and it's just like a casual conversation. And it has been so interesting to hear from different areas of the state how IEEs are just totally different. It's just like mind boggling. Some of the stuff that people are like, oh, you have to do this. And we're just like, no.
Yeah. What was the one? Oh, like they do an assessment plan?
Yeah. They had to have an assessment plan before an IEE. And I was like, well, there's the assessment plan from the district's assessment that you might be. And what was the line? The one person kept saying, they were like, oh, they have the right of first glance. It just reminded me of like your first time you see your spouse on your wedding day. That's what first look was, first something. And I was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. I mean, I'm fairly new to the IEE world. I've been doing them for like 2 years, but like, yeah. So, but it's funny because there's rules that you just kind of go to the district.
Yeah, like if the initial assessment didn't cover a certain area, then you're not allowed to cover that area. You have to let the school district do it first.
Well, that's the purpose of the IEE, is because the parent disagrees with the results. If you so you're supposed to basically mimic the assessment that was done by the school district to determine whether they were right or not right.
But I think the question though was like, let's say the parent feels like a part was missed, right? So, maybe they didn't do social emotional, let's just say, or maybe they didn't look at attention and executive function. What the person was saying was that, well, if the school didn't do that, then as a private, you can't do that either unless the school does it first. But like, I would just do whatever I needed to do the assessment. I wouldn't.
The district gets one chance to assess the student. And if they don't assess in all areas of suspected disability, then they've lost their opportunity. So that's why
I like that.
You can do that. I haven't had that come up before as like, you can't test in that. I've had the parents say they didn't look at this and I want that done. And then I would assess that.
Right.
Yeah.
I've never gotten pushback from a district on that before.
Yeah.
We're with you, Chris.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, we are running low on time, so I will save my scope of practice questions for our next time together.
You should let the audience know we will be bringing Chris Jones
We
back.
will be, yes. He didn't really have a choice in the matter. I was like, oh, you're available on 2 days. Yes, let's just go ahead and schedule 2 days worth. So next time that we have you on, I would love to pick your brain specifically about that line that we had our Facebook discussion about, which is things needing to be academically related to the academic learning process. Because I feel like that is where I see broad and you see narrow. And so I would love to hear and pick your brain as to why, but we will wait for that. So I have one last question for you, Mr. Jones. And that is, if you could go back to your pre-LEP self and give that person some encouragement or advice, what would you tell yourself?
As you're starting your practice?
As you're starting your practice.
Don't jump off full time without a bigger plan. Take it slow. Take business classes. So the biggest thing that we struggled with was we're great psychologists, but we didn't know how to run a business. So we read books and we talked to people and all of those things. But if I were to go back and do it again, I would have done more study on how to be a business owner.
Yep.
That was the biggest, I think the biggest learning curve for me.
Yeah. Those are the questions that Bethany and I get all the time. And so we're working on it. And actually, we just found out some very interesting news today. Should we tell him, Bethany?
We should. We talked to a tax attorney today about business entities. And we learned that it is actually against, oh, wait, I have it written down. The code. Oh, man, I switched pages. Anyways, there is some business tax law thing that specifically cites licensed educational psychologists and makes it so that LEPs cannot have LLCs in the state of California.
Really?
So it is actually in, I even looked it up. We have a name. We are in, what is this? I pulled it up. It is the Business and Professionals Code. And we are explicitly stated as being members of that, which makes us unable to have LLCs in the state of California.
Because LEPs are part of Business and Professionals Code?
Because we are outlined as a provider.
We are.
Yeah.
That's where LEP law lives, is in Business and Professions Code.
Yeah. So I guess if you are on that list of all the different professions, you automatically do not get to have an LLC. So you need
That's
to
interesting.
be sole proprietor. Yeah, it was really fascinating. And now Jana and I both have work to do because we both have a business basics course and we need to go back and fix it because we tell them about all three of their options.
Chris does too.
Oh, and Chris needs to go back and fix his too.
I need to pull that. So I hope you can be an S Corp. I've been an S Corp for, well, good. Then I didn't mess that up. That's fantastic.
Right. We're fine. We're not going to jail.
He told us, we checked. Yes. And we learned that we are professional corporations.
Yes.
That's what we should refer to yourself as.
Okay. So that's interesting because I was told that we cannot be professional corporations because we are not, we don't fall underneath that umbrella. When we were looking at incorporating, that's what our business attorney told us, is that we don't fit under that definition. It includes clinical psychologists, doctors, things like that, but LEPs were not included. So maybe it's changed. Again, my study on this was 15, 16 years ago at this point. So
he made it sound like it's more of just the umbrella category.
Yeah.
So professional corporation is the header, and then we have S and C corps and whatever else can be
oh,
underneath.
gotcha.
It's that we can't be a psychological corporation. Oh, never mind. I do that every single call. I end up doing this.
Yes.
Is that what triggers the balloons?
Yeah. It's like if you do this, it triggers balloons. See?
Fun
yeah.
with Zoom.
I know. But I think it's that we can't be a psychological corporation, but a professional corporation. We didn't talk about that. The reason that it just like comes to mind because I know some PhD clinical psychologists who have psychological corporations,
right?
Which we can't have. But yeah, he was saying just professional corporation is the umbrella, and then S corp is how you do your taxes.
Yeah.
Yeah. We learned so much today.
We have.
Yeah. And it's a
Good
podcast.
stuff.
So everybody will know soon. All of our 100 listeners.
Do we have 100 listeners?
I don't know. All I know is we had over 100 downloads the last time I checked,
That's exciting.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
We've got 15 subscribers on YouTube.
Amazing.
I know.
Have to start somewhere.
Right?
Yes. That's right. Well, Chris, thank you so much for being here today. We're going to wrap up this episode of the Empower LEP Collaborative Podcast, and we look forward to seeing you guys next week.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you for listening to the Empower LEP Collaborative Podcast. Episodes can be found at empowerlepcollaborative.com. If you liked what you heard, please leave us a 5-star rating and review on your favorite podcast player. If you'd like to be a guest on our show, or if you have any questions for us, don't hesitate to connect. We would love to learn more. Jana can be found at jana@empowerlep.com, and Bethany can be reached at bethany@lepcollaborative.com.